Welcome back, everybody, and today we're going to be continuing What If Lori Survived in The Walking Dead. So let's get into it. So we start off with Merle, who's telling the governor that he found his brother, and Martinez and Milton are there as well, who are listening to the conversation. And the governor would tell Merle that his brother and the guy with him can stay. And Merle would say that there's others with them in the group that want to come as well, probably. And the governor would say they can stay as well, as long as they don't cause any trouble here in Woodbury. And Merle would tell the governor that they're going to be here soon, and just as then, the group are already here. And the group are all trying to settle in at first, but Merle would see a familiar face, and that familiar face is T-Dog. And T-Dog would see Merle, and T-Dog, he'd get really upset of this. T-Dog would reload his gun and he would aim at Merle. But Rick would knock the gun out of T-Dog's hand before Merle or anyone else could see. And then afterwards, the group all starts settling in. And we'd also see Axel and also Carol, and they've gotten into a relationship. And they technically, because I feel like that would happen, because in episode 10 of season 3, you could clearly see it, but it's just, much earlier that it happens. And the group would see another familiar face, and that familiar face is Andrea. And now, for Andrea, she's just fine with the group, I guess, because we all know how Andrea was. I'm not even sure if anyone liked her. If you like Andrea, I won't judge you, but most people do not like Andrea. Anyways, and I am one of those people. We'd see the governor, who's gonna go find some more people, and he would take some people along with him, and that's Crowley, Tim, and also Gargiulo, and also Merle, and also Daryl. Now, the reason why I'm having Daryl go with them is because I feel like Merle would want Daryl to come along with. Anyways, the governor and his people spot some people that have armored vehicles, and they're the people from the helicopter crash. And anyways, Lori's recovering from her pregnancy, and she's fully recovered now, but let's continue with the governor. The governor and his people shockingly decide to kill all those army people, and they take over their armored vehicles and all their weapons. And Daryl isn't too happy about everyone just killing them, so Daryl would raise his gun towards the governor, and also Merle would try to convince Daryl to put the gun down, because he's his brother, of course. But the governor would raise his gun towards Merle then, and Merle doesn't even care. Merle would raise his gun as well, and for the other guards of the governor, like Crowley, Gargiulo, and Tim, these three are side with the governor. But the thing is, and Merle would yell at the governor and the other men of him, and Merle would raise his gun, and he would tell Daryl to do the same again, and they both would pull the trigger. They killed Tim and Crowley. And also Gargiulo, and the governor, he would just run. And the governor would tell Merle and Daryl before running away is that they're not welcome back to Woodbury, aka the community the governor lives in. And Daryl and Merle run after the governor's car, but they can't catch him. But Daryl would say, "Does Merle remember where's Woodbury?" And Merle would reply, he doesn't remember where it is because they're mostly going in cars, never go by foot. And Merle's mostly not the driver, so... And we see the governor who's already back at Woodbury, and he would be telling everyone at Woodbury that Merle and Daryl and Tim and Crowley and Gartulio were with him, and they were trading with some other survivors. And Merle and Daryl ended up killing them for no reason, and then they ended up killing Tim, Crowley, and Gartulio. And the governor would say that also they tried killing him, but he ended up escaping. And if they end up finding their way back to Woodbury, that he will let them stay, but not as residents, as prisoners. But obviously the governor's lying. He's just gonna kill them if they come back. But he really just can't, because the governor, he literally had a whole army of people to just kill Merle. And Merle ended up killing more than half of the governor's army by himself. And the governor ends the talk there, and Martinez would see something in the governor's window. And Martinez would see that there's a little zombie girl in his room, and Martinez would shoot it from the window. And we'd see Rick, who's telling the entire group that Merle and Daryl would never do something like that. And the governor's doing something, and it's not something too good. It's something really bad. And Lori would agree here, because even though she thought of Merle and Daryl just being some creeps, she doesn't think that they would do any of that, because they're not some murderers. And Glenn would say that he can go find Merle and Daryl, and he'll bring them back here, and he promises that. And Maggie would want to come with Glenn, and they both leave, and they tell the governor that they're just gonna go get some supplies, but in reality they're gonna go get Merle and Daryl. And when they go out, they find a couple of people, and it's, yeah, well, you guys guessed it, it's Merle and Daryl. And Merle would tell Maggie and Glenn that the governor left us, and Daryl would agree with Merle, and Merle would let Daryl do the talking now. And Daryl would say the governor first killed some of the innocent people, and then Daryl aimed the gun at the governor, and then afterwards the governor aimed his gun at Daryl. Then the governor would tell Tim, Crowley, and Gartulio to shoot at them, but Daryl and Merle killed Tim, Crowley, and Gartulio, and the governor runs away in his car. And after hearing this, Maggie and Glenn would take them both back to Woodbury, and the second they get back, they would tell Rick to do it, to start the fight against the governor. And Carol, and also Beth, and also Herschel, and also T-Dog, and also Axel, and also Merle, also Oscar, and also Rick, and also Lori, and also Daryl, and also Carl, and also Glenn, and also Maggie would all raise their guns at the governor. And Andrea would try to calm things down, and also afterwards a bullet would come flying towards her, and the bullet would go straight in Andrea's head, killing Andrea, and afterwards, and Michonne dies as well because another bullet came flying, and this bullet would kill Michonne as well. And that'll be it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. And I'm pretty sure that the next episode is going to have a lot of chaos. So stay tuned for that, and bye-bye.